and welcome to Conversations with Eileen, episode 16. I have a very, very, very special guest tonight. And as you can see, I'm wearing pink in honor of awareness for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is October. And without further ado, I want to bring on my very, very, very good friend, Sue Moller. And we're going to talk about her journey. Hey, Sue.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? I thank you so much for coming to Conversations with Eileen.
Thank you for having me.
We've had a lot of conversations in the past.
We have had a lot of conversations. Now this one's just on the record, I guess.
We've had a lot of fun together.
Yep. Yes, definitely.
But when I started this journey of Conversations with Eileen, I knew looking ahead that for many reasons, I wanted to really bring attention to Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You know that I've had, lumpectomies in the past when the kids were little. Very fortunate that nothing was found. However, that's not the case for everyone. And I think you and I can both 100% agree that being proactive is the way to do. Make sure that you're doing your mammograms. Make sure that you're doing all the things necessary to keep yourself healthy for your loved ones.
Yep. Yes, and following up on mammograms. There's so many people that I talk to that say, "Oh, I'm pushing off my first one," or "Oh, I don't want to get my first one because once I start, I have to start." So I'm telling you, when you just get it, like, it's not a big deal. It's not, whatever. It's not pleasant, but it's definitely not super painful as everyone says it is. And then if doctors do say to come back in 6 months or come back for follow-ups, following up, I think, is key, because there's so many people, I think, that get scared and then don't go up for the follow-up. I think that that's something super important to really stress too.
I agree with you. I think, especially for women, we are the childbearing, part of the family, and we're the caretakers, and it's very scary to think, what if something happens to me? I have responsibility, I have obligations, I have people that love me, I have people that I love, and we get frozen. And we have to condition ourselves to not be frozen.
Right.
To continue to take that step to making sure that we are healthy so that we can be there for our family and our loved ones.
Yes. And especially with something like breast cancer, where early detection is key. Early, when they find it early, it's very treatable. That really is, I think, the most important thing. So if you keep putting it off, then you're really not finding it early, and then it's probably a bigger deal.
Right. So you have a little, and I want to say unique story that I always found very fascinating, because I want to let you tell the story.
Okay. All right. So I guess I take it away. So I am a breast cancer survivor at this point. But going back to 2018, I had done 23andMe. I want to say, like, it was on sale, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds like a fun thing to do." And I don't really know a lot about my background on my on my paternal side of the family. So I said, "Oh, let's let me do this and see what my genetic makeup is." Not even thinking twice about it. A month later, I get my results, and it says I have something called BRCA positive. So it was BRCA1 gene, which is an increased risk for breast and ovarian cancer. And then I kind of ignored it for a few. So all that advice I just said at the beginning, I kind of did that for the beginning, knowing that I had this gene and that, what it meant. And I read about it and, kind of educated myself on it, but then put it out of my mind until my annual exam, which was a couple months away.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I, spoke with my doctor, and he said same thing. You can do more genetic makeup, so you can follow up on it. But he didn't seem overly concerned. A lot of people do actually have this gene. It just increases your risk, and they're trying to actually pinpoint with certain other genetic markers what your increased risk is, because right now they just don't know. They just know you have an increased risk. It's for me, it was 80% over a lifetime of developing breast cancer.
Okay.
I went to MSK and I met with genetics there, who did follow up genetic testing to confirm that I was in fact BRCA positive. And now this is like the beginning of 2019. For the ovarian cancer risk, which was really only about a 10% risk. That the scary thing about ovarian cancer, and I know this isn't ovarian cancer month, but it's kind of all tied in together, is that once you actually start displaying symptoms of ovarian cancer, it's a little too late. And there's no good monitoring for ovarian cancer. So that sort of scared me actually even more than breast cancer, because I felt fairly confident with early detection, and monitoring, and the surveillance is very good with breast cancer, but I'll get into that in a little bit, that, I could be monitored for breast cancer, but I did opt to have a full hysterectomy back in 2019 to just, take out, those risk factors for that. So that was my first one. Then I entered a program at MSK, and I have nothing but nice things to say about MSK. They're wonderful. Every single person I came in contact with there has been wonderful. It's called the RISE program, which is an increased risk monitoring program. Every 6 months, a doctor's eyes would be on me, and I would alternate mammograms and MRIs. So MRIs isn't something typical, like a typical person would get monitoring with, but because of my increased risk, each test can detect slightly different stuff. And even, my last MRI was in August of 2020. And then my mammogram in March 2021 is what picked up a small tumor in my breast. So the one in August didn't pick it up, which just shows you that each machine kind of does something a little bit different.
Yeah.
But for 2 years I was in this program, and I would meet with my doctor in the program. I would go to radiology, and like a T, I kept my appointments. I kept any follow-ups that they wanted me to go to. And I made sure that, that I was definitely, I was taking it seriously, because I knew I was taking a risk. Back when I first found out that I was BRCA, they did want me to do a preventative double mastectomy. I was not ready at the time to do that. I felt like it was a pretty major surgery and recovery, and I wasn't there at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it bought me 2 more years without having to to go through the surgery that ultimately I had to do. But yeah, so in 2021 I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and they thought it was non-invasive. After the surgery, they found out that it was slightly microinvasive, which again, because it was caught so early, it did not spread to any lymph nodes, which is really what the key is, because then I didn't need chemo and radiation. So from that end, I was lucky. But, have to be on some medicine for 5 years and keep doing things like that. But we're doing okay.
You look fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you said those buzzwords, early detection. But what I felt so, I guess, fascinated by your story, aside from the fact that you are a good friend and you had a lot of people surrounding you with love and good thoughts and good vibes and prayers, because we love you.
Thank you. I love you.
But it was that little simple test of 23andMe.
Yep. Right. Because listen, no one in my family has breast cancer, like a great aunt did, actually, my godmother. But they said that was too far removed. So anytime I said that, the doctors wouldn't even write that down. I don't have an overly large family, and not a lot of females. And listen, men can get breast cancer as well, but none of the men in my family have had breast cancer either. Right. So I wouldn't have been on anyone's radar for high monitoring. And actually, I will say, so when they found my tumor, and as small as it was, had I not had the BRCA gene, they probably would have recommended a lumpectomy because of my family history, and because I know I would have been a prime candidate for it.
Right.
So I'm so glad that I had that extra knowledge of the genetic testing, just to say, they're saying, look, you knew you had an 80% increased risk. It's like a bell curve, the way it goes up. Right. So after 40, and that's why I had to have the hysterectomy like right when I turned 40, that your odds go up, and then eventually like around 60, then your odds start going back down again, just because you're getting older and your life expectancy gets less, obviously. So right now, if I'm already now still at the beginning end of where the bell curve is getting higher, they didn't even give me a choice this time. They're like, nope, double mastectomy, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the good news is that you were very proactive.
Yep.
Early detection.
Yep.
And the outlook looks extremely positive for you.
Yes. Thank you.
So the message, once again, I really, really wanted to highlight this because if this podcast helps one woman,
Right.
if it reaches one person and says, I think I'm gonna just do, a test. I mean, you can actually go to your gynecologist and have the test for the BRCA gene, correct?
Yes. So I think insurance probably would only cover it if you had, like I know when I had to get mine done at MSK, insurance sort of, this is the weird part. Insurance is weird sometimes. So because I was patient 0, they said I had no known risk factors. I'm like, yes, but I have a test that says I'm BRCA.
Right.
So like they had to like kind of finagle it. And luckily they did. They were able to say like, look, we have this. And my sister, who I also had go get tested for the BRCA gene, she did not have it. But when she went to her doctor and said, my sister just tested positive for BRCA. I need to know if I have this. And insurance covered it, no problem, because she had a,
Right.
So yes, if you think you have a known risk or whatever, I would say check with your insurance. But again, 23andMe or any of those genetic ones that do it, I would think they're pretty reliable. I mean, I've been hearing, along the way now, I've been hearing a ton of people that, this kind of like kickstarts some things, which is so easy. Everyone has access to these at home, genetic tests now. I wish the medical community, I mean, I guess I'm sure it's expensive to run these tests, but I wish the medical community used this a little bit more to do it, because had I not done that, again, I did go to yearly mammograms before I found out, that I had the BRCA gene. So I would assume that it would have been caught early. But because I was already in like a patient at MSK, right, when I tell you things moved in a matter of weeks. So, by the time, I was the first, that mammogram that they saw something suspicious, that was a Friday. I went in for the biopsy Tuesday. By Thursday, I was already back in their office, and my surgery was scheduled 6 weeks later. And only 6 weeks, because I fought them. And I said, no, I need a little bit more time. And there was like vacation in between. That means I only had 2 weeks left at work. They wanted it 4 weeks. They're like, no, 4 weeks, you're coming in. So everything moved really quick. And I'm super grateful that I was already a patient at MSK. And they were great.
Now, 23andMe, I think, is the only, we'll say, ancestry kit that actually does a little bit more of expansion. Genetic testing.
Okay. So I'm glad I picked that one.
I did a little bit of research. But there's also tests that you can get at your Walgreens, at CVS, that will detect other possible abnormalities in the body. And I do agree with you. I think that they should be more readily available. Yeah. And I think it's a good way to be, as you were, very proactive in taking care of yourself. You're a mom. You have 2 beautiful children. You have a wonderful life. And we can now call you survivor, although I like to call you warrior.
Thank you. Same. Same. Although, it's funny, which I do use myself, especially on days that I'm having a pity party. But it's, I've seen that you go through so many, listen, every emotion that you can have, I've had this year. And it's COVID, and it's been a weird year in general. Yeah. But, people are saying, warrior, it's a funny thing because, and again, I do like that term, but, everyone's saying, look, this is a battle I didn't choose to go into. And some days you don't feel like a warrior. So if there are any survivors or other warriors that are listening, yes, I get that. there's days you didn't choose this. You didn't want to fight. Some days you're not brave. Some days, you're sitting there and you're allowed to have a pity party.
Yes.
You'll have every emotion.
Be forgiving of yourself. You don't always have to be strong. You're allowed to take a time out, and you're allowed to take a day and say, you know what, this really sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to do that, because you're human, and as you said, you have to go through the gamut of emotions.
Right. I said this word a lot.
You did.
I did. That's my word of choice.
I bet you did. I bet you did. And rightly so. Rightly so. You're my friend, and I love you. And I absolutely hate that you had to go through this.
Thank you.
And I know that this isn't like, your thing that you would have picked to do tonight. No, we could have had another conversation about something else.
Right. Listen, like, this is subdued zoo. Anyone who knows me is probably like, what is happening right now? She's like falling asleep on camera. No, I'm kidding. We're talking about something serious. Listen, this is serious. Can I come back on one day and have like a fun conversation?
We are. We are so overdue for that.
Okay, great.
But my friends, you and I hope other survivors had the network of support that you had. I know you had it, because
thank you.
We have a lot of mutual friends, and it blew me away to see the rallying and who can do what. And I love the fact that you created that it's that app, and so you were able to give us actual
Caringbridge. Yeah, Caringbridge was good. So you get overwhelmed with 100 texts. I mean, I guess depending on what your text contact list has. But it's and it gets exhausting, especially like after the surgery. There were days at a time I wasn't picking up my phone. It's you can't move your arms, and you have drains. That can be a whole nother podcast. But the recovery is not fun. So yeah, Caringbridge was great. It was an easy way for me to kind of update people on as what was going on, that people could follow along. And I could, at the time I was doing like daily updates, then I started doing weekly. It was a nice way to be able to connect to people. And I will say, yes, my network of people, that's how I got through it. It literally takes a village, between people watching my kids and, just coming and supporting me. And one of my good friends would drop off gluten-free. I'm gluten-free as well. Gluten-free food to me all the time, because I couldn't even like think to like get food or do food. People donated. Listen, I'm a big fan of DoorDash and all those delivery services. But like, because you can't cook, you can't lift your arms, you can't do anything. My mom slept here for like a week and a half with me, because I couldn't lift. I went to go to the cabinet to take out a plate. I couldn't lift. Like it was humbling. And I will say, it was interesting to see, friends that I hadn't seen in a while kind of resurfaced and really kind of took care of me, and everyone was wonderful. I wouldn't have gotten through it without them. And actually, I feel really bad because I haven't even reached out to I haven't formally thanked everyone. I'm not there yet. But I will be. I promise. If anyone is listening that helped me, I will get to you. I promise.
That's not why anybody did anything.
I know. I just feel bad and it's weighing on me, but I feel like I will cry doing anything right now. So I will get to that.
But you got through this.
Yes. I'm on the other side. I'm on the other side of it.
Yes.
It's a slow recovery, right? I'm still swelling in certain places. I still have pain in certain places. I still can't do push-ups back off my arms, my arm strength. And so where they took lymph nodes was on the right side, which traditionally is my stronger arm. The strength is not back yet. I sometimes get, beat up on myself a little bit about that. I'm training for the New York City Marathon, which will be
I was gonna say
surgery. Yep. So I'm running. My mileage is up. I've increased my mileage each month.
So wait a second. Yeah. Hold on, because let's transition to that.
Sure.
People don't know that before this in your life happened, you were running how many miles a day?
So I was doing a run streak, which was a minimum of 1 mile a day. A minimum of 1 mile. Prior.
No,
yeah.
No. Before
so I stopped on day 323 of my run streak. I did run at midnight of my surgery, like the morning of, so it counted for that day.
Okay.
So on surgery morning, that's what I like to say.
Mhm.
And literally now my motto has become like 324. 324. Everything is just get to that next day. Doesn't matter if I make it the year again. Like I'll start a run streak again. I have a plan. I'm not ready to like announce the plan, but I have a plan. I will start a run streak again after marathon training is over. And listen, will my goal be a year? Probably, but I'll just be happy if I make it to day 324.
So I want people to hear the words run streak, because after going through everything that you've gone through, you said, because we're friends on social media, and you started walking, and then you picked it up, and then you were able to do this distance and this distance and this distance. So for anyone that's listening to this,
No.
please know there is no stopping you.
Thank you.
You can do what you set your mind to do.
Yep.
So tell me today, how much can you run? How far can you run?
Oh, for me?
Yes.
Well, listen, so because of the marathon, but listen, what's impressive right now. So in June, when I was allowed to start running, when I was cleared to start running again, I ran 30 miles in the month. Then in July, I ran 60. And then in August, I ran 90. In September, I had 107. So I've been increasing my mileage, obviously, because it's marathon training now. But the longest distance I've run is 18 miles now. But again, I'm full in. Listen, yesterday's run was 12 miles. I'm like, yes, it's only 12 miles. That's weird for me to say. Never would I have thought that.
I know.
That 12 miles. And today's run was a 5-mile recovery run. That also would have never been in my vocabulary like 2 years ago.
But many people don't have your mindset of thinking, I'll be able to have, I'll go back to my normal routine and my normal life. But you were very, very, very determined.
Right.
And I think it's your determination and your just, no is not in my vocabulary.
Thank you.
I'm going to do this, that has gotten you this far.
Thank you.
And that's why you are a warrior.
Thank you. I'm a little stubborn too. So I'm like, yeah, you're not taking this from me. I'm still running.
And that's okay. But it's stubborn in a good way, because
Stubborn in a good way.
you do not take, nothing is impossible.
Yes. Yes. And I will say you're right. And that's, and that's the thing. It's I think how you look at anything, there's that book that says like you can't afford the luxury of a negative thought. I don't know if you ever heard about it. My grandmother used to always talk about it.
Okay.
Listen, because I'd be like negative about things, and she'd be like, listen, you're working yourself up more about certain things. And I do have a hard time of letting go of certain things or perseverating over certain stuff. And sometimes, you sometimes you have to let it go. You just have to, you have to have the days where you're going to have your bad days, and then have the days that you go kick ass and you continue running. And
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I am, to say that I am so proud of you is just,
Thank you.
It doesn't really convey the emotion that I have for you, because I watched the journey with you and I prayed for you every night, and you are my good friend. And to see you here sitting with me talking about this, it's just really, it makes me feel so good. And I think you are such an awesome person.
Thanks.
And,
right back at you.
oh, thank you. And this, like I said, Sue, if one woman takes action from this,
Yeah.
or 5 women, then we did our job, didn't we?
Yes. Yes. And I will say I notified like the kids' school that this was going on last year. And one of the employees there, I don't want to like say what who it was. But they said, oh my God, I've been putting mine off. I'm going to go schedule it. I said, good. That's why I'm telling people,
to go through this experience and not have a takeaway from it is a loss. And I know you are such a giving person, I mean, to sit down and have this conversation,
Right.
it's hard. It is hard, but it's conversations that we need to have, and we need to keep talking about it, because the more people that we engage with, the more lives we can save.
Yes.
And
yeah,
ultimately,
listen, and I was public about it. I will talk to anyone that will listen about it. I'm very detached from it, in a way, when I'm talking about it. I can talk about it factually and separate my emotion from it. But I will say people have reached out about their spouses who are going through breast cancer, or other women that I've known for years that I never knew suffered from this. There's a network of people now that, and again, because I posted, and some are more public than others, a ton right even here in North America that have reached out. And we do know, where we are in Long Island, that the breast cancer rate is very high. And, I don't think they've still figured out why that is. But that even more so for all the people in our area watching, get monitored, even if you're saying you're not high risk. And again, whenever my doctor would ask me, like, oh, have you ever had a relative with breast cancer? They would check it off that I was not at a high risk category. So I feel like even just having first degree relatives that have had cancer, that can't be the only marker. And,
yeah. And this, I think that the science behind it is still evolving, and perfecting, and breaking it down and breaking it down and breaking it down even more, so that even the smallest measure of anything suspicious will be more easily caught.
Right. Well, yes, and when the radiologist, so I could tell something was different this time when I went for the mammogram, and then they called me back for more images. I'm like, well, that's different. But she said, we see something, but it's like the size of a pencil dot, and it's probably nothing. So the size of a pencil dot, that was what mine was, and it was already okay. Yeah, they found out after, already microinvasive, starting to spread. So, but they caught it super early, and that's why then
early detection.
Yep.
So thank you so much for being here with me tonight and sharing your story. And as I said, if one person takes something from this, then this was worth it.
Yep.
But I hope more than one person, because we are going to share this all over social media, and you're going to be famous.
I don't need to be.
The famous Moller.
I'm already famous. I'm just kidding.
AKA or Thelma.
I was just going to say, if you pick me up in a convertible, I'm not getting in.
That's a different conversation.
That is a different conversation.
You don't even remember who was Thelma or who was Louise.
You're clearly Thelma, because you call me Louise. You still call me Louise. For people watching who don't know this, we are Thelma and Louise. And you call me Louise. You still text sometimes, be like, hey, Louise. I'm like, that's not my name.
Because we've had some interesting adventures together.
Yeah.
You're such a good friend, and I love you dearly.
I love you. Thank you for bringing me on, and thanks for listening to my story.
Thank you.